Here is what you requested for sir.
Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. Can I get you anything to drink? She was smiling. The kind of smile flight attendants are trained to hold for 11 hours straight. Warm, professional, the exact correct number of teeth. But this smile was different. This smile was holding together a woman who had just looked down at row 14 and seen her husband, the man she had been married to for 4 years, the father of the baby growing inside her at 5 months, sitting with his arm around her younger sister, their fingers intertwined, a matching set of luggage tags dangling from the overhead bin that read, in delicate gold cursive, K+N, 1 year, 1 year. They had been together for 1 year, and Zara Osei Williams, 29 years old, 5 months pregnant, 37,000 feet above the Pacific Ocean, sight wearing a pressed Navy uniform and a smile that could shatter glass, said, "Still or sparkling?" Her husband looked up. His face went white. Her sister's hand jerked away from his like it was on fire. And Zara, who was trapped on this airplane with both of them for the next 12 hours and 43 minutes, tilted her head slightly and said, "Sir, your water?" In first class, a man in a black suit looked up from his newspaper. He had been watching the flight attendant since boarding. Not because of the situation unfolding in row 14. He didn't know about that yet. Because he recognized her face. She was the woman who had saved his father's life 6 months ago at 40,000 feet. And Park Seon-woo always repaid his debts. She's pregnant. She's trapped on a plane. Her husband is sitting with her sister. And the Korean Mafia boss in first class already knows her face. Subscribe right now. Because what happens over the next 12 hours and the 5 days after landing is going to be the most satisfying karma you've ever heard. Let's go. 14 hours before that smile, Zara Osei Williams was packing her crew bag in the apartment she shared with her husband in Yongsan-gu, Seoul. She was 29, Nigerian-American, born in Lagos, raised in Atlanta, and living in Seoul for the past 6 years, because she had fallen in love with 2 things simultaneously: flying, and a man named Judas Williams, who had a smile that could talk you into anything, and a voice that made promises sound like architecture. She had met Judas at a friend's wedding in Atlanta when she was 23. He was Ghanaian-American, 6 years older, already building an import-export business that moved goods through West African and East Asian ports. He was charming in the specific way that made everyone in the room believe he was talking only to them. He had told Zara she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen before he even asked her name. She should have known then. Men who lead with flattery are usually hiding what comes after. But she was 23, and he was magnetic, and the wedding was in June, and everything felt possible. They married 2 years later, moved to Seoul because Judas's business required an Asian hub, and Zara's airline, a major international carrier, was headquartered there. For the first 2 years, the marriage felt like what she'd imagined. He traveled often. She flew often. They met in the middle whenever they could. Where's in the distance kept things exciting. Then Naomi arrived. Naomi Osei, Zara's younger sister by 4 years. 25. The baby of the family. Naomi had moved to Seoul 18 months ago to be closer to Zara, or so she said. She had no job lined up, no plan. Just a suitcase, and the assumption that her older sister would handle everything. Because Zara always handled everything. Zara had gotten Naomi a temporary place to stay, had helped her find a job, had introduced her to friends, had cooked for her every Sunday because Naomi missed their mother's jollof rice, and Zara was the only one who could make it the same way. Naomi was at their apartment constantly. She and Judas got along well. He made her laugh. She thought he was funny and successful, and Zara was grateful that her husband and her sister had a good relationship. So she was grateful. She had no reason not to be. Naomi had been sleeping with Judas for 12 months. This morning, Judas had kissed Zara on the forehead, touched her belly, and said, "Take care of my little one. I'll be back from Bali in 5 days." A trade conference. That was the story. His company did business throughout Southeast Asia, and Bali was a common destination for networking events. He had packed a suitcase. He had called her from the taxi. He had texted her a heart emoji from the airport. What he had not done was check the flight crew manifest, because if he had, he would have seen a name he recognized. Zeed O.C. Williams, Senior Flight Attendant, Seoul Bali Direct, departing 2:15 p.m. Zara had not told him she was on the Bali route this week. She had planned it as a surprise. She would be in Bali at the same time as him, and during her 24-hour layover, she was going to show up at his hotel with the ultrasound photos from her appointment that morning. She was carrying a girl. She wanted to tell him in person. She had the photos in an envelope in her crew bag, tucked between her passport and her compression socks, with a sticky note on the front that said, "It's a girl. Love, us." That envelope was still there when she walked down the aisle of the plane and saw her husband in row 14, with his arm around her sister and a set of luggage tags celebrating 1 year of lying to her face. The cabin door closed. Zara stood in the forward galley and pressed both palms flat against the stainless steel counter and breathed. In, out, in, out. She had 12 hours and 43 minutes left on this flight. She was 5 months pregnant. She had just discovered that her husband and her sister, her blood, her family, the girl she had raised as much as her mother had, were on a romantic vacation together. To celebrate a full year of being together while Zara cooked Sunday dinners and showed Naomi ultrasound pictures and told Judas she loved him every night before bed. 1 year of performances, 52 Sundays of lies, 365 days of looking her in the face, and the luggage tags, custom, gold cursive, K+N. They had luggage tags made, like a couple, like something to be celebrated. Zara's hands pressed harder against the counter. She could not break down, not here, not in this uniform, not in front of a full plane of passengers who expected her to be pleasant and competent and calm. She was all of those things. She had been all of those things through turbulence and medical emergencies and drunk passengers and delayed flights, and once, memorably, a man who tried to open the emergency exit because he needed fresh air. She could be those things now. She straightened up. She fixed her collar. She checked her name badge. She picked up a drink tray. And she worked. She served row 14 4 times over the next 12 hours. Beverages, dinner, a snack service, breakfast before landing. Each time she smiled. Each time Judas couldn't meet her eyes. He stared at the seat in front of him. His hand was no longer touching Naomi. His body language had collapsed. Shoulders hunched, jaw clenched. The posture of a man trapped in his own lie at 37,000 feet. Naomi was worse. She had pulled a blanket up to her chin and turned toward the window and hadn't moved in 3 hours. She was pretending to sleep the way children pretend to sleep when they know they've done something they can't undo. Neither of them spoke to Zara. She didn't need them to. On her 6th trip through the cabin, she paused at the galley curtain that separated economy from first class. In seat 2A, a man in a tailored black suit sat reading a newspaper with the focused calm of someone who treated airplane time as an extension of his office. He had declined every beverage and meal service with a polite nod. He had spoken to no one. He traveled with 2 men in dark suits who sat in 2B and 3A and watched the cabin the way security professionals watch rooms, constantly, quietly, seeing everything. The man in 2A looked up as Zara paused at the curtain. Their eyes met, and Zara saw something she didn't expect. Recognition. He knew her face. She didn't know his. But something about the way he looked at her, not casually, not with passing interest, but with the specific attention of someone placing a memory, made her pause. Then the call button from row 27 chimed, and the moment passed and she went back to work. She didn't know that the man in 2A had just sent a text to someone named Sergeant Yoon that read, "Confirm identity, flight attendant, senior, name badge reads O.C. Williams. I believe she is the one who saved my father." The reply came in 90 seconds. Confirmed. Zara O.C. Williams. Seoul-based. Same flight attendant from the Tokyo Seoul incident. Your father calls her the angel on the plane. Park Seon-woo put his phone away. He had been looking for this woman for 6 months. He had brought an envelope containing enough money to change her year. He had not expected to spend 12 hours watching her serve beverages to a man who was clearly destroying her, She's pregnant, trapped on a plane. Her husband and sister are in row 14. The Korean Mafia boss is in seat 2A, and he already knows who she is. The plane hasn't even landed yet, and this story is already on fire. Drop a fire in the comments and subscribe. Because what happens when they land in Bali? Nobody is or ready. The plane touched down in Bali at 1:47 a.m. local time. Judas and Naomi were among the first to deplane. They moved quickly, heads down, not looking back. Judas pulling both their carry-ons, Naomi walking 2 steps behind, with her arms wrapped around herself. They didn't speak to each other. They didn't look at Zara. They disappeared into the arrivals hall like people fleeing a crime scene, which, emotionally, they were. Zara completed her post-flight duties, checked the overhead bins, collected the service carts, filed her crew report. She was the last person off the aircraft because senior flight attendants always are. She walked through the jet bridge into the Bali airport at 2:23 a.m. in her pressed uniform, pulling her small crew roller bag, her name badge still pinned to her chest. The envelope with the ultrasound photos still tucked in her bag. She found a bench in the arrivals hall. She sat down. She placed both hands on her belly. The baby was moving, the way the baby always moved during descent, responding to the pressure change with the vigorous protest of someone who had inherited their mother's refusal to be uncomfortable quietly. "I know," Zara said softly, to the baby, to herself. "We'll figure it out." She sat there for 4 minutes. Then she heard footsteps. Not rushed, not casual, deliberate. "Miss O.C. Williams?" She looked up. A man stood before her, tall for a Korean man, lean and precise in a tailored black suit with a black shirt, open at the collar, where the edge of a dark tattoo crept above the fabric on the right side of his neck. His straight black hair was styled with a slight side part. His jawline was sharp enough to cut glass. His dark brown eyes were focused on her with an expression that was respectful, serious, and carried the weight of something he had been meaning to say for a long time. Behind him, 2 men in dark suits stood at a respectful distance. "My name is Park Seon-woo," he said. "6 months ago, on a flight from Tokyo to Seoul, you saved my father's life." Zara blinked. The memory surfaced immediately, vivid, specific. An elderly Korean man in business class, seat 4C. He had started choking, then clutching his chest. Then his eyes had rolled. She had been there in 4 seconds, cleared his airway, started chest compressions when his pulse dropped, talked him through it, held his hand, told him to stay with her, or kept him conscious until the emergency landing. Afterwards, at the hospital, the old man had held her hand with both of his and said, in careful English, "You are the angel on the plane. My son will find you. He always repays kindness." "Mr. Park," Zara said, Is he okay?" "He's well, fully recovered. He speaks about you often." Shenwu paused. "He told me to find the angel on the plane and repay the debt. I've been looking for you for 6 months. I didn't expect to find you on my flight to Bali." "How did you recognize me?" "My security team obtained the incident report from the airline. Your photo was in the file." Zara looked at him, looked at the 2 suited men behind him, looked at the tattoo on his neck. She was a woman who had spent 6 years living in Seoul. She understood what the tattoo meant. She understood what men with security details and tailored black suits and the ability to obtain airline incident reports represented. "You're not a businessman," she said. "I am," he said, "among other things." "The other things are the reason you have bodyguards." "Yes." She almost smiled. Almost. It was 2:30 in the morning, and she had just served her cheating husband beverages for 12 hours, and she was 5 months pregnant and sitting on an airport bench in Bali with an envelope of ultrasound photos she would never give to the man they were meant for. "Your father said you'd find me," she said. "He said you always repay kindness." He was correct. Seon-woo reached into his jacket and produced an envelope, thick, cream-colored, sealed. "This was my original intention," he said. "Financial compensation for what you did. My father insisted it be significant." Zara looked at the envelope. "I don't want money," she said. I was doing my job. You went beyond your job. The doctors said your response time was the reason he survived. Then I'm glad he's alive. That's enough. Xianwu studied her, the pressed uniform that she had maintained for 14 hours, the composure that hadn't cracked in the airport, in the cabin, in the galley, the way she sat with her hands on her belly, protecting the baby, even in stillness. He had watched her for 12 hours on that plane. He had seen her serve row 14, had seen the man who couldn't meet her eyes, the woman who pretended to sleep, the luggage tags she had noticed, but no one else had. He had read the situation in the first hour. By the third hour, he understood the full architecture. He didn't mention it, not yet. You're on a layover, he said. Do you have accommodation? Zara had booked a hotel, for two, to surprise Judas. She couldn't go there now. I'll figure something out, she said. I have a villa here, private, fully staffed, more space than one person needs. He paused. It's not compensation. It's hospitality. You saved my father's life, and you're sitting on an airport bench at 2 a.m. The least I can offer is a bed. Zara looked at him for a long moment. She was exhausted. She was pregnant. She was heartbroken in a way that hadn't fully arrived yet, still in the numb phase, the phase where the brain protects you by not processing everything at once. One night, she said. As many as you need, he said. The villa is yours for the duration. One night, he almost smiled. The same almost smile she would come to learn was his version of a full grin. We'll negotiate tomorrow, he said. The villa was not a villa. It was a compound, private beach access, an infinity pool that appeared to merge with the Indian Ocean. 4 bedrooms, each larger than Zara's apartment in Seoul. A staff of 6 who materialized with fresh juice and warm towels before she had finished walking through the entrance. Zara stood in the open-air living room. Marble floors, teak furniture, frangipani and ceramic vases, and looked out at the ocean and felt, for the first time in 14 hours, something other than controlled devastation. She felt tired. She slept for 11 hours. When she woke, it was afternoon. The Bali sun poured through sheer curtains. The baby was kicking. There was fresh fruit on the bedside table and a handwritten note on the tray. Breakfast is ready whenever you are. No rush. S. She ate on the terrace overlooking the ocean. Papaya, dragon fruit, toast with Balinese honey, and tea that tasted like someone had actually cared about making it. Seonwoo was at a table on the lower terrace, reading when she came down. He stood when he saw her, a gesture of respect so instinctive it was clearly not performed. They talked, carefully at first, about his father, about the flight, about Bali. He didn't ask about row 14. He didn't ask about the man or the woman or the luggage tags. He waited. On the second morning, Zara told him. She told him everything. The marriage, Judas, Naomi, the business trips that were never business trips, the 12 months, the luggage tags, Sue, the ultrasound photos she was carrying for a man who was celebrating an anniversary with her sister. She didn't cry. She had cried once, on the terrace the previous night, alone, for 20 minutes, looking at the ocean. She had used those tears up. She was done. Xianwu listened without interrupting. When she finished, he asked one question. Where are they staying? Zara told him the resort name, the place Judas had booked. She knew because she'd seen the booking confirmation on his laptop weeks ago, back when she thought it was for a conference. Something shifted in Xianwu's expression. What? Zara asked. That resort, he said, is part of a hospitality group that my family has a significant stake in. Silence. How significant? Significant enough that I can tell you what room they're in, what they ordered for breakfast, and what excursion they booked for tomorrow. A pause. Would you like to know? Zara looked at him. I want to know everything. Xianwu made a phone call. 3 minutes. Quiet Korean that Zara understood enough of to catch the key words. Room number, guest names, booking details, special requests. He hung up and looked at her. Room 412, Ocean View. They've booked a couple's massage for tomorrow and a private anniversary dinner on the beach for Thursday. He paused. The dinner reservation is under the name Williams. Your name, his look said. He used your name. Zara was quiet for a very long time. Then she said, What's the room opposite theirs? Xianwu understood immediately. The presidential suite, room 411. It's currently unoccupied. Book it. Done. And whatever restaurant they're going to tonight, I'll have a table reserved. Better location, better view, better everything. Zara looked at him, this man who had come to repay a debt with money and was now helping her orchestrate the most targeted vacation revenge in Bali history. Why are you doing this? She asked. Because my father told me you were the kind of person the world doesn't make enough of. And I just watched a man who doesn't deserve you spend 12 hours proving that. He met her eyes. You saved someone precious to me. Someone is trying to destroy someone precious too. He stopped. Recalibrated. Someone who deserves better. I correct imbalances. This is imbalanced. Zara held his gaze. I'm doing this for myself, she said. Not for revenge. I just want them to see that I didn't shatter. Then let them see, he said. I'll make sure the view is excellent. The resort pool was the kind of pool that appeared in travel magazines. Infinity edge, overlooking the ocean, surrounded by daybeds with white cushions and staff who brought fresh coconut water without being asked. Judas and Naomi had claimed 2 daybeds near the shallow end. They were quiet. The energy between them had changed since the flight. Judas kept checking his phone. Naomi kept looking over her shoulder. They were not the carefree couple who had boarded the plane with matching luggage tags. Then Zara walked onto the pool deck, not in her flight attendant uniform, in a stunning white beach cover-up over a tasteful swimsuit that accommodated her baby bump beautifully. Her natural black hair, long, tight, beautiful knotless braids that had been pulled back for work, was now loose and flowing past her shoulders, catching the Bali sun. Gold sunglasses, gold sandals, the glow of a pregnant woman who had decided to stop grieving and start living. Beside her, Park Xianwu walked in linen trousers and a fitted white shirt, sleeves rolled, looking like a man who had been designed specifically for tropical sunlight. His hand rested on the small of her back. Not possessive, protective. They walked past Judas and Naomi like they were furniture. Judas choked on his coconut water. Naomi's sunglasses fell off her face. Xianwu guided Zara to the premium daybeds, the ones at the infinity edge with the unobstructed ocean view, reserved for VIP guests only. Staff appeared immediately with fresh juice and chilled towels. The resort manager personally came over to greet Xianwu by name. Judas watched from the shallow end as his pregnant wife, the woman he had left sitting on an airport bench at 2 a.m, lounged on a premium daybed beside a man who was clearly, visibly, undeniably operating at a level Judas couldn't even aspire to. The resort staff didn't look at Judas once. They looked at Xianwu constantly. That evening, Judas and Naomi went to the resort's beachfront restaurant. They were seated at a standard table, nice, but inland, partially blocked by a palm tree. 10 minutes later, Zara and Xianwu were escorted to the VIP oceanfront table, the best in the restaurant, directly on the sand. Candles and hurricane glasses, a dedicated server. Champagne arrived automatically. For Zara, sparkling water in a crystal flute with a sprig of mint. The food was extraordinary, but what destroyed Judas wasn't the food. It was the way Xianwu listened to Zara, the way he leaned forward when she spoke, the way he laughed at something she said. A real laugh, sudden and warm, and the way she smiled back. It was the attention, the quality of it, the specific, focused, undivided attention of a man who found the woman in front of him genuinely fascinating. Judas had stopped giving Zara that attention 2 years ago. He was watching someone else provide it now. Naomi pulled at his sleeve and whispered something. He didn't respond. He was staring at the oceanfront table like a man watching his house burn down from across the street. Judas and Naomi's room was nice. Room 412, ocean view, king bed, a fruit basket on the dresser. Directly across the hall, room 411, the presidential suite. Each morning, when Judas opened his door to get the newspaper, he could see the presidential suite's entrance, the double doors, the fresh flower arrangements delivered daily, the private butler, who stood discreetly in the corridor, and each morning he could hear Zara's laugh through the walls. Not forced, not performed. Real. The laugh he hadn't heard in months because he had been too busy making Naomi laugh instead. The presidential suite had a private balcony with a plunge pool, visible from Judas and Naomi's smaller balcony. Every morning, Zara had breakfast on that balcony, in the sunshine, in a flowing dress, with the ocean behind her and the Bali breeze in her braids and a cup of tea in her hand. Glowing, thriving. 5 months pregnant and more beautiful than he had ever seen her. Judas stood on his balcony and watched and felt something he had not allowed himself to feel in 12 months. The weight of what he had thrown away. On the third day, Judas couldn't take it anymore. He found Zara at the resort bar in the late afternoon. She was alone. Xianwu was on a business call. "Zara, we need to talk." She looked at him with the calm, even gaze of a woman who had rehearsed this conversation at 40,000 feet for 12 hours. "Talk. It didn't start the way you think. Naomi and I, you booked a vacation to celebrate your 1-year anniversary with my sister while I'm carrying your daughter." She paused. "What part am I misunderstanding?" His face crumpled. "Our daughter." "Your daughter. The one I was flying to Bali to surprise you about. I had the ultrasound photos in my crew bag, with a note that said, 'It's a girl.'" Judas's legs seemed to weaken. He gripped the bar. "Zara, Don't say sorry. Sorry is what you say when you step on someone's foot. This was 12 months of planning. You had luggage tags made, Judas." "Luggage tags." He reached for her arm. A shadow fell over the bar. Xianwu appeared beside Zara. Not aggressively, not dramatically, simply present, standing close enough that his proximity was a statement. His hand didn't touch Judas. His eyes did. Judas looked at Xianwu, and whatever he was about to say evaporated, because Judas didn't know who Xianwu was, but he knew what he felt, the specific, when primal recognition that the man standing in front of him operated in a category of power that Judas's import-export business couldn't even see from where it stood. "Are we done here?" Xianwu asked. The question was directed at Zara, but the message was for Judas. "We're done," Zara said. They walked away together. Judas stood at the bar alone. He ordered a whiskey with a hand that was shaking. Naomi tried next. She found Zara at the resort spa. A coincidence that was not a coincidence, because Xianwu's staff had told him where Naomi booked her appointment. "Zara, please, can we talk?" Zara was in a robe, waiting for a prenatal massage. She looked at her sister, this girl she had housed, fed, introduced to Seoul, and treated like her own child, and said, "Talk." "It just happened. We didn't plan it. I swear. You had luggage tags made, Naomi. You booked an anniversary dinner. You planned this trip around his fake business conference. Nothing about this just happened. I know it looks bad. It doesn't look bad. It is bad. You slept with my husband for a year. You came to my house every Sunday and ate the food I cooked and held my hand at Thanksgiving prayer and then went to his hotel. You texted me asking about the baby, my baby, while you were in bed with her father." Naomi's face crumbled. Tears started. "Don't," Zara said. "Don't cry. Not in front of me. You don't get to be the one who's hurt. I never meant to. You wore the bracelet I bought you for your birthday to celebrate your anniversary with my husband. You packed it in your suitcase next to matching luggage tags with his initial and yours. Don't tell me you never meant to," Naomi sobbed. "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing," Zara said. "I want you to say nothing. I want you to go back to that room with the man you chose over your sister, and I want you to explain to him that the woman he married, the woman carrying his child, is on the other side of this resort living better than both of you combined, and I want you to sit with that." She stood. "We're done, Naomi." She walked out. She did not look back. Day 5. The final evening. The resort's beachfront event space. Sunset. the kind of Bali sunset that looks manufactured, gold and pink and purple spreading across the sky like someone had commissioned it. Xian Wu had arranged a private dinner on the beach, lanterns lining a white sand path, an arch of white flowers, a table for two on the sand with the ocean behind it, a string quartet playing something that made the air itself feel romantic. This was the exact location Judas had booked for his anniversary dinner with Naomi. The same spot, the same time, the same sunset. Xian Wu had booked it first, 2 days earlier, through the resort staff who answered to him before they answered to any guest. Over 4 days, something had happened between Zara and Xian Wu that neither of them had planned. It started as debt repayment. It evolved into alliance. It became friendship. And somewhere between the pool and the restaurant and the balcony breakfasts and the late-night conversations where she told him about Lagos and he told her about Seoul, and they both discovered that the other person listened the way people listen when they actually care. It became something else. Something real. Something that had nothing to do with Judas or Naomi or revenge. Something that existed because two people who were very good at reading rooms had looked at each other and realized they were being read back. Dinner was served on the beach. They ate. They talked. The sunset performed on cue. Then Xian Wu stood. He walked around the table. He knelt on the sand. Tailored trousers, expensive shoes. None of it mattered. And he opened a small box containing a ring that caught the last light of the sunset like it had been designed to. "I came to this island to repay a debt," he said. "I'm leaving with something I didn't know I was looking for." Zara looked at him. At the ring. At the ocean. At the sunset that looked like God was showing off. "You've known me for 5 days," she said. "I've known what I'm looking for my entire life," he said. "I just didn't know what it looked like until you served me sparkling water at 2 in the morning in a Bali airport with the posture of a queen and the composure of someone who had survived the worst flight in human history." She laughed. Tears and laughter together. The specific combination that only happens when joy arrives in a place where pain used to be. "Yes," she said. He put the ring on her finger. The string quartet swelled. And 50 meters down the beach, walking along the sand toward the dinner spot they had booked and lost, Judas and Naomi stopped. They saw the flowers, the lanterns, the arch, the table on the sand. They saw Zara in a white dress, standing in the sunset. They saw the ring. They saw Xian Wu holding her hand. They stood on that beach and watched the woman they had betrayed choose someone else in the exact place they had planned to celebrate the betrayal. Naomi's hand went to her mouth. Judas's face did something it had never done before. It broke. Not with anger. With the specific, devastating recognition that he had lost something he would spend the rest of his life failing to replace. Zara did not fly home on the commercial return flight. A private jet, Park family livery, cream leather interior, a flight attendant who served Zara instead of the other way around, took them from Bali to Seoul in 4 hours. On the jet, Zara sat by the window and looked at the ring on her finger and the ocean below, and the man across from her who was reading a briefing from Sergeant Yoon while simultaneously ensuring her tea was the correct temperature. "I'm going to need a lawyer," she said. "I have 17. "A good one." "I have 17 good ones." She almost smiled. "And I'm keeping my job." "I would expect nothing less." "I'm not going to be a trophy wife." "You are a senior flight attendant who trained at 37,000 feet and can perform CPR while managing a beverage cart. You are no one's trophy. You are the entire competition." She laughed. The baby kicked. Xian Wu looked at her belly with an expression that was not his usual controlled composure. It was softer, newer. The face of a man encountering a concept he had never factored into his life plan and finding it terrifying and irresistible simultaneously. "She kicks when I laugh," Zara said. "Then I will spend considerable effort making sure you laugh often." "That's very romantic for a man with a neck tattoo and 17 lawyers. I don't do romantic, I do practical. Making you laugh is the most practical investment I've ever considered." Meanwhile, Judas and Naomi flew home commercial. economy class. Because Judas's business credit card had been declined at the resort checkout, the payment processing system, which ran through a partner network that included a company in the park portfolio, she had experienced a temporary authorization hold. They sat in the middle row, row 32, between a family with a crying toddler and a man who snored for 6 hours. Naomi didn't speak to Judas for the entire flight. The luggage tags, K+N, 1 year, were in the trash bin at the Bali airport. Nobody retrieved them. Judas's import-export company depended on shipping routes through Southeast Asian ports. 3 of those ports had logistics partnerships with companies connected to the park syndicate's legitimate business holdings. Within 2 weeks, shipping delays. Customs documentation flagged for additional review. Insurance premiums spiked by a third-party assessment that cited elevated risk factors in supply chain management. His biggest client, a Korean electronics manufacturer, received a courtesy call from a representative of a company they valued more than Judas's. The call was brief. The client pulled their contract. Within 6 weeks, Judas Williams' business didn't collapse. It bled out. Slowly. Precisely. The way only someone who understood the architecture of international trade could make it bleed. He was left with a company name, an empty office, and a stack of invoices he couldn't pay. The proposal photos surfaced online. Someone at the resort, a staff member, a guest, it didn't matter, had posted them. Zara in white on the beach at sunset. Seon-woo on one knee. Tyo the Bali sky behind them. Zara's mother saw them. Then Zara's mother called Naomi. The conversation lasted 6 minutes. Zara's mother spoke for 5 of them. Naomi listened. At the end, her mother said, "You are my daughter, and I will always love you, but you are no longer welcome at my table until you understand what you've destroyed." The line went dead. Naomi called Judas. He didn't answer. She called him again 3 weeks later with different news. She was pregnant. Judas, whose business was collapsing, whose wife had left him for a man whose private jet had a dedicated flight attendant, whose credit cards were declining, could not provide the support Naomi expected. He told her he needed time to figure things out. She sat in her sole apartment, the one Zara had found for her, the one Zara had furnished, the one that was paid for with a deposit Zara had loaned her, and understood, finally, the full cost of what she had chosen. Her sister was gone. Her parents' table had 1 fewer chair, and the man she had chosen over her own blood was asking for time he would never use productively. The divorce was swift. Zara's attorney, one of Seon-woo's 17, the best one, ensured the terms reflected the reality. Judas had funded personal travel and an affair using business accounts that commingled family assets. The financial audit was thorough. The settlement was not generous to Judas. Zara moved into the Hanam-dong residence. Not because she needed to, because it was home now. She kept flying. Seon-woo didn't ask her to stop. He understood that the woman who had served her cheating husband at 40,000 feet, with a smile, would never stop being the kind of person who worked for her own reasons on her own terms. Park Seung-ho, Seon-woo's father, met Zara at the residence on a Sunday afternoon. The old man took one look at her and started crying. "The angel on the plane," he said, holding both her hands. "I told you your son would find me," Zara said. "I told him to find you," Seung-ho said. "I didn't tell him to fall in love with you. That part he managed on his own." 3 months later, Zara gave birth to a daughter in a private hospital in Seoul. The baby had her mother's cheekbones and her mother's composure. She entered the world without screaming, looked around the room with wide, dark eyes, assessed the situation, and then cried exactly once, as if to confirm she could, and then stopped because she had made her point. Seon-woo held her with the careful intensity of a man holding something more valuable than everything he owned. "She's perfect," he said. "She has your stubbornness already," Zara said. "She has your courage." Which is worse, for everyone. He looked at Zara, this woman who had served him sparkling water on an airport bench in Bali and somehow become the center of his entire world. "I came to that flight to repay a debt," he said. I'm leaving this hospital with a family. You're also leaving with a daughter who will have your resources and my tolerance for nonsense, which means she will be unstoppable and everyone should be afraid. He smiled. Fully. The way his father described him smiling when he was young, and the world hadn't yet required him to stop. I'm already afraid, he said, in the best possible way. Zara laughed. The baby opened her eyes, looked at her mother, looked at the man holding her, did not cry. Some people arrive in the world already knowing they're in the right place. And that is what happens when you cheat on a pregnant flight attendant with her own sister. Judas thought he could book a romantic vacation, celebrate a year of lies, and come home like nothing happened. He didn't check the crew manifest. He didn't know his wife was on that plane. He definitely didn't know the Korean Mafia boss in first class had been searching for her for 6 months. But here's the thing about Zara. She didn't need Seon-woo to save her. She served her husband drinks for 12 hours at 40,000 feet with a smile on her face and never cracked. She confronted her sister in a Bali spa without raising her voice. She chose herself before anyone else chose her. Seon-woo didn't rescue Zara. He recognized her. And there's a difference. Judas lost his wife, lost his business, lost his dignity at a resort pool. And his mistress? She lost her sister, her family, and the man she destroyed her life for, all in the same month. If this story hit different, smash that like button. One tap tells me to keep going. Subscribe if you're not family yet. We drop stories that hit this hard every single week. Comment below. What was your moment? The plane? The pool? The proposal on Judas's beach? Or that private jet home? I'm reading every comment. Share this with someone who needs to hear that being someone's safe option is not a destination. It's a departure lounge. I'll see you in the next one. Don't be late.